What do you make of this ambiguity around what the U.S. are going to be doing? Is there a precedent for this in history? Have we ever been in a situation where it's this unclear whether the U.S. is going to get involved militarily in a conflict or not?
Oh, I think there have been multiple occasions when the U.S. has been hesitant about entering into armed conflict. All I have to do is jump back 85 years at the time of Pearl Harbor. And just immediately before that, while President Roosevelt was focused on assisting the United Kingdom and whatever was left of the Allies against Nazi Germany, by the same token, he did not take action for years. It was only the event, the Pearl Harbor attack by the Japanese, that forced him to make the decision to go to war. So hesitation as a tool has been used repeatedly. And I just want to indicate that there's no statute or directive from any governmental agency that says that that 2 weeks cannot be extended further. It's an opportunity to put pressure if, in fact, there is even a hint of a possibility, a probability that this whole matter can be resolved through negotiation, great. If it takes 2 weeks, fine. If it takes longer, but you have a real deal, then that extra expenditure of time is worthwhile. But just caveating the extra time, we have to be very careful what we wish for. Certainly none of us, especially those who have served in the armed forces of the United States and around the world, nobody, unless they're an absolute sociopath, is interested in going to war. It's a bloodletting, it's a loss of life, and certainly all focus should be on peace. But by the same token, when you look at the situation in Iran, and if somehow we made a deal or we simply declared a ceasefire, then the biggest question that will be put before not only those in Israel who have a direct interest in this conflict, they initiated at least the salvos against the Iranian nuclear capability, but even over here is, what's this end going to look like? What is the end state?
Yeah.
And we could go into that. I know you've got a few more questions, and I have a few more answers regarding that issue of end state.
So, okay, so let me just tell you about perhaps the ability to extend that timeline. What do you think would be the catalyst for the U.S., for President Trump, to decide to get involved in this war? Because so far, the Iranian response has been specifically targeting Israel. It's been bilateral. U.S. assets, GCC infrastructure, all of that being spared. They haven't gone for the option of disruption on Strait of Hormuz. What would need to happen, do you think, for President Trump to say, actually, I'm going to pull the trigger here?
Well, if we listen carefully to what the president has stated, if there is no progress, now again, I have to revert to this conversation about 2 weeks, but if there is no tangible, palpable, we can feel it, we can understand it, progress in these talks. There was no progress, by the way, in the first 60 days, but if there is no intent, verifiable intent, shown to the U.S., to U.S. allies, to people around the world, that Iran is, in fact, intent upon resolving this crisis and, most importantly, intent upon giving up its nuclear capability, surrendering that capability, and demolishing all the infrastructure that was built up for the purpose of both enrichment and perhaps weaponization of that uranium.
Okay, so the past week, all of us have had to read up about these bunker buster bombs, the MOBs, because those seem to be the only munitions that can actually penetrate the nuclear facility in Fordo. But let's say the U.S. do get militarily involved and they use those MOBs. What is a guarantee that that actually is going to completely eliminate Iran's nuclear stockpile and their nuclear program? They may have other secret stockpiles, and you're also not eliminating the knowledge and the know-how that exists on the ground. There's no guarantee that sending across several MOBs is going to solve the situation.
I could incorporate your statement as my answer. But just in terms of the use of those GBU-57s, what we call the bunker bombs, certainly we've touted these bombs across social media and in the networks that are monitoring what's taking place in the Middle East. Yes, the U.S. has these bunker buster bombs, and there's also almost an implied thought process that all that needs to be done to complete Israel's elimination of Iranian nuclear capabilities to drop one of these bunker bombs right into Fordo. But as you've suggested, there has been no positive test to demonstrate that those GBU-57s, the bunker bombs, can indeed reach to levels that we suspect house at 300 feet or more, that house some of the most critical of Iranian infrastructure. That's problem number one. And when you think about it, if we drop those bombs, let's just say we went to war, we decided to attack tonight, which was a possibility up until a few hours ago, by tomorrow morning, we might have a big crater, but that crater might have done nothing more than raise up about 200 feet of dirt. So we just don't know even about the capability of these, quote, miracle bombs. And then further, as you've suggested, we just don't know all the locations and all those, not only the premier scientists, some of whom have been eliminated, but we just don't know where they all are.
Yeah. Okay, we've talked about what the U.S. could possibly do on the offensive side of things. What about defense capabilities? What can the U.S. military do right now to be prepped in case U.S. assets in the region are targeted?
This almost goes back to the time when I was in uniform, because the whole concern, once again, was Iran even 10, 15 years ago, because Iran at that time was building up its ballistic missile capability. And especially when we look at the Emirates, Emirates were vulnerable at that time, and the U.S. Put significant effort and money. Of course, the Emirates paid for a lot of this in terms of putting missile defense systems in that part of the world, so that there is sufficient coverage that if Iran launches, there's a high probability that U.S. ground-based, for instance, Patriots, and naval-based, they call standard missiles, would have the ability to shoot down most of what Iran shoots at us. Is it absolutely fail-safe? Well, that's an easy question right now, because even though the Israelis have shown significant success with Iron Dome, and let's caveat that Iron Dome is also a joint sort of venture with the United States, we've still had in the last couple of days a good number of Iranian attacks, successful attacks, where there's missiles, these swarming missiles. Some of them get past Iron Dome and do significant damage on the ground. So we just have to be prepared for that. But be prepared, as I raise my finger, is critical. Be prepared to accept the fact that if we jump into this engagement, let's just say tonight, we drop that GBU-57, those bunker bombs, and then the next day we begin to see American service members killed, whether they are the ones who participated in the aerial delivery of these systems, if not missile launched, or they happen to be located in the myriad of U.S. facilities in the Middle East. I don't know if the American people are yet prepared to see those body bags. And that's a question that ultimately will have to be addressed by the president to the American people.